All right, y'all. It's the Hot Action Podcast, and we are back. I'm your host, Matt Kerr, and we are about to do our Week 12 predictions. But first, we are going to review what happened last week in the NFL, go over our wins and losses, and then we're going to get to predicting. So, first of all, I got to start off the podcast by saying, what do I got to do to get you people interested? We're 3 and 5 last week on our best bets. That brings us to a total of 29 out of 50. That's pretty good. It's 58%. That's where you're winning money. And in the annual pick'em, every game against the spread, I'm 94 and 72. That is 22 games above 500. That's more than a whole week. The worst I've done this year is 7 wins in a week. Those are 7 and 9 weeks. I got 2 7 and 9 weeks. And, I'm pretty impressed with myself. You guys, no one's watching. I'm posting every week. I'm posting every week and no one's watching. Let me know in the comments what I got to do to get y'all's attention. Just let me know. All right. Well, what happened this week? All right. We started week 11. In Philadelphia. We went against the rule, the primetime game, divisional game rule. We picked Philly, and it was correct. Philly won by 8. I think our guy Jaden Daniels is a little banged up. And, deeper into the season, Cliff Kingsbury's offense might not be as effective. Who's to say? Either way, Philadelphia's defense is really cool. They get the job done. And yeah, I don't know. I really didn't like Washington's end of game strategy there. They could have finished the game with like 10 points if they had screwed it up worse, but I just couldn't believe the pace that they were playing with at the end of that game. They needed 2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions to win. They had 2.5 minutes and they were just pondersome. I don't know what they're thinking. All right, moving on. We had Sunday morning. LA Rams at New England. I took New England plus 4.5, and the Rams kept it out of range just enough to cover. That's an L for your boy. Then we took Miami minus 7.5 at home against Las Vegas. That worked out. They win the game 34-19. Then we had Green Bay at Chicago. This was a kind of a funny one. I took Green Bay minus 6.5 points on the road. That was probably a mistake in retrospect. I don't think Green Bay was covering for even a second of this game. They do, however, Chicago, gets the game to 2019 and marches the ball down the field on the final drive with the hopes of taking a lead, end of game lead with a field goal. But of course, Bearsy stuff happens and the Packers block the field goal and win the game 2019 in something that could only really happen in a Green Bay Bears game. They snatch defeat from the jaws of victory and lose. All right, and then we got Jacksonville at Detroit. We took Detroit minus 12.5. I felt a bit nervous about this when I was clicking the button, but ultimately the nervousness was not worth anything. Jacksonville would score 6 points, and Detroit would score 52. I think that they scored on their first 6-7 possessions. They scored touchdowns seemingly at will in Detroit. It was an absolutely breathtaking display. All right, moving on. Then we took New Orleans at home against Cleveland, giving up a half point. New Orleans would smoke Cleveland 35-14. We take down a dub. And we also took Minnesota minus 6.5 visiting Tennessee. Minnesota would win by 10. This is a cover. That's a dub. And we had this grudge match. Baltimore versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh getting 3.5 points at home. I thought this was an easy choice, and it was. Pittsburgh wins the game 16-18. Winning the game outright was pretty nice. And, the game worked out just like I thought. Then we got Indy plus 3.5 points at the Jets. This game started out looking extremely confident. The Jets battled back to be problematic, but then Indianapolis would take a late lead and win the game. Then here's one we got wrong. Like I've said all season, fade my picks against Seattle or on Seattle. If Seattle's in the game, I can't be trusted. I picked San Francisco minus 6.5, and this is a game where they were not covering for very much of the game, if any at all. I can't remember, but San Francisco was in trouble basically the whole time, and they would end up losing the game outright at home to Seattle. Seattle stays alive in the playoff race. San Francisco drops to last in the division, I believe. Not looking good for the Niners. And then we've got Atlanta at Denver. We took Denver minus 2.5, and they would score 38 versus Atlanta's 6. An easy cover, an absolute shit kicking, an utter shellacking. I don't know how else to put this. Atlanta's offense can move the ball on like bad defenses, but Denver's defense is elite. Atlanta didn't get much going at all on the day, and Bo Nix went off. Like, this is probably his best game. Like I said, he's making me a believer, if you will. And he's doing everything that needs to get done. He went absolutely nuclear. He scored 4 touchdowns, so can't be mad at that. 38-6, easy cover. And then we had the game that I was very confident about. I put it in our best bets. Didn't work. We took Kansas City plus 2.5. I have a rule where it's if you're getting points with Kansas City, you just take them. You can't. Doesn't matter who the opponent is. This is insane. You take the points. It's worked out for me more often than it doesn't, but last week it did not. Buffalo wins the game 30-21. I take home an L with that one. And then Sunday Night Football, we had Cincinnati at the Chargers. I laid 1.5 points with the Chargers at home. This was a absolute slugfest. Chargers take an early lead. I think they go into the half up 17. Cincinnati battles back, takes the lead. Chargers take the lead back on the final drive, win the game 34-27. That's a cover. That's a dub for your boy. And then finally, Monday Night Football. We have Houston at Dallas. Dallas were 7.5-point home dogs. And this was a tough pick for me, but I thought Houston had more juice. We took Houston, and they end up covering by 24 points. Or they end up winning by 24 points and covering the 7.5-point margin. Not too tough. And yeah, your boy finishes 10-4 on the week, 3-4 in best bets, and the lock of the week, which was Detroit wins. That hit. So, pretty spectacular week. We're doing good. We're having a great time. And now we move on to week 12. Now we get to predicting. Now, again, the rule comes into play. We've got a divisional matchup between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Cleveland is getting 3.5 points at home. I don't like it, but it's the rule. I'm going to hold my nose, pick Cleveland. We're getting the 3.5 points. Pittsburgh doesn't tend to score a lot of points. I heard on a podcast that the scores in Pittsburgh games tend to sound like years, like that a war happened, like 17-12, 18-13, 19-12. Yeah, weird scores like that. So getting 3.5 points is actually quite meaningful. Cleveland, I think, has a decent defense, and I haven't liked betting on Cleveland much this year, but I think here's a good spot for them. 3.5 points is a lot. As long as Cleveland doesn't do something monstrously stupid, I think they'll cover. They might even win. We'll see. All right, and then we got Tampa at the Giants. The Giants are getting 5.5 points at home. I don't like this much. I'm going to take home dogs again. That seems like the right move to me. And then we've got Detroit at Indianapolis. Detroit's giving up 7.5 points on the road. This is a bit tough to me. I'm very inclined to take this Indianapolis team as home dogs. But Detroit, when they get going, they can absolutely blow teams out. So I'm going to take Detroit. I don't think going to lose this game. I think they're going to win. I think they might not cover, but it's marginal to me. I'm taking Detroit, but I don't feel great about it. Now we've got Tennessee visiting Houston. Houston are 8.5-point home favorites. I'm taking Tennessee. 8.5 points is too much, I think. I think Houston wins the game, but these divisional matchups, getting more than a touchdown seems like a lot to me. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's divisional. We're taking the huge point spread. And I think we'll continue to do that as we see more opportunities later in the slate. So let's keep going. New England at Miami. Miami's giving up 7.5 points at home. That seems crazy to me. They have one more win than New England. We're just taking New England plus 7.5 points. It's divisional. Miami could lose this game outright. I wouldn't be that surprised. All right, and then Dallas at Washington. I think some of y'all are going to look at me funny, but I'm taking Dallas plus 9.5. Just so many points to be grabbed. I'm way up on my points count this week, but that's what I'm doing. I think the Cowboys are quite bad, but 9.5 points is too much in a divisional game. And yeah, no, that's all there is to it. Moving on, we got Minnesota at Chicago. Chicago's getting 3.5 points at home. Now, this is one of these divisional matchups that I'm not going to be taking the points. I think Minnesota gets it done on the road. All right. Then we've got Kansas City at Carolina. Carolina's getting 10.5 points at home. We're taking Kansas City. They lost last week. I think they're ready for retribution. Actually, Kansas City isn't scoring a lot of points in any of their games. We're going to take Carolina. Feels crazy. Just stacking up the points. This one could be embarrassing for me later. It could be very embarrassing when when Kansas City wins 45-3. But, we're trying to be probabilistic here. How many games have Kansas City won by more than 10 points this year? I can't recall it off the top of my head. So we're gonna take the points again. Now we've got Denver at Las Vegas. Vegas is getting 5.5 points at home. Oof, Denver has been playing really good lately, and Vegas is incredibly bad. We're going to flip the script. We're taking Denver. And all right, we got Arizona on the road at Seattle. Seattle gives up 5.5, or giving up a half point at home. We are taking Seattle. Maybe it's because I'm a hopeful Seattle fan, but they've got the games with Arizona this week and then again in 2 weeks' time. I think the most likely outcome is a split, but yeah, so I'm thinking we split home and home. These half-point lines might as well be pick'ems. I'm taking Seattle to win. But yeah, again, I said it earlier this episode. I've said it probably 10 times this year before this. Fade my Seattle picks. They're usually bad. Do the opposite of what I'm doing and you'll make money. All right. We got San Francisco at Green Bay. San Francisco's getting 2.5 points. For whatever reason, Green Bay, whenever they're playing Seattle, or whenever they're playing San Francisco, I feel like they poop their pants. So I'm taking San Francisco plus 2.5. That's about it. I think on the weight of the season, Green Bay deserves to be a 2.5 point favorite, but yeah, I don't know. If San Francisco lose this week, they're kind of in the basement. There's like a scenario where they go 3 games behind Arizona in the division, which that would be very bad for them. And for whatever reason, I have some belief that they could win the division still. Who knows what's going on? But yeah, I'm taking San Francisco plus 2.5 points. I'm just taking a lot of points this week, it seems like. Maybe I'm crazy. But we'll see. Then we got Philadelphia at the Rams for Sunday Night Football. Rams get 2.5 points at home. Philly's defense is looking real deal, and all they got to do is take care of the ball on offense, run with Saquon, get a pass completion here and there. So yeah, I think Philadelphia is the winner of this game in the end. And yeah, moving on, we're gonna go Monday Night Football. We got Baltimore at Chargers, the Brother Bowl, Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. And yeah, because it's the Brother Bowl, this is something I've seen before. The Super Bowl where San Francisco 49ers played Baltimore. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to be taking Baltimore. Baltimore, I think generally speaking, after a loss, they're going to try to come back out and play strong. Chargers, I don't think are going to be, I think they'll finish the year with something like 10 wins. But, I don't know. 8-3 seems like a lot for them. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with either outcome after this game. But yeah, I think Baltimore is going to do their best to chase after the division right now. So that's what we're going to do. What would be a good tie-break score between Baltimore and the Chargers? I'm going to put in 65 because I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. All right. That's it for the week in terms of picks against the spread. Now we got to do our best bets. So I'm going to put in Minnesota over Chicago. That's 3.5. Minnesota minus 3.5. I think we're taking Detroit over Indy. We're taking San Francisco over Green Bay. We're taking Philly over the Rams. And we're taking Denver over Vegas. Denver is a cover machine. And finally, my lock of the week is that Kansas City defeat Carolina. We're going to try to thread the needle. We're taking Carolina against the spread. We're taking Kansas City wins as the lock of the week. So we have a 10.5 point window to thread the needle. I think they can do it. I think Kansas City's capable of doing it. So, that's it for this week. Like I said, let me know what I got to do to get y'all's attention. Like, comment, subscribe. And see y'all next week. This has been the Hot Action Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kerr. Peace.